Now let's move on to our next theme, which is basically a fusion of two themes that slightly overlap from our Think Again toolkit, craft and pre-industrial. The trend in crafted product has been going on for quite some time, and it will continue in the future for a number of good reasons. First of all, we see consumers feeling a need for things that are good quality, that are timeless, that are unique, handmade, and have a history and cultural background. Pre-industrial is about how we can take inspiration from how our primeval ancestors designed, which is especially important when it comes to using natural resources and minimizing construction, which is essential for making sustainable products. Again, I'd like to explain what I mean using chairs. These are two chairs that I photographed last April at the Salone del Mobile in Milan. The chair on the left shows the new direction that craft is taking. Over the past seasons, we have seen the whole uprise of fine crafts like embroidery, fine ceramics, yet now we see a new type of heavy-duty craft, for instance, metal forging. This has to do with the need for products that are solid and durable and look like they don't just last your lifetime, but a couple of lifetimes to come. The chair on the right is what I mean by learning from how our ancestors designed. Of course, in primeval times they didn't have many means to make something, so if they wanted to design a product, they would look in their surroundings to find something that would already come close to what they needed and then made some minor adjustments. For instance, turning a tree trunk into a chair like this. Yet this is a way of designing that we have forgotten about now. When we design a product, we start thinking and sketching, and only when that is done, we are thinking, okay, what are we going to make this from? This is actually working backward, and I feel that in the future, to make more sustainable products, we will relearn to work the other way around. In footwear, we will see this idea reflected by the return of shoe styles that are inspired by the first shoes that humans ever made, such as moccasins and sandals. In clothing, we clearly see the fusion of both themes, both craft and natural pre-industrial. Fabrics are all natural or natural looking and have a weathered finish, yet the styles are all inspired by workwear. This is the new working class hero look, so to speak, and this is for both men and women. A specific, more ethnic-inspired style that we will see for summer is a look that is inspired by Northern African nomads, but this should definitely not be mistaken for a safari look. This is more like the things the guy is wearing in the middle with the sandals. I added the girl with the cowboy hat to point out that indeed we will see cowboy influences, Americana-inspired influences, but it's not a typical cowboy look. You will have to fuse the cowboy influences with more heavy-duty utilitarian workwear influences. When it comes to footwear in this theme, you should basically start with the finish. What you will find are all kinds of footwear brands updating their existing styles using new finishes to make them look worn and weathered. For instance, this collection by Pantofolo d'Oro is just made up of 3 or 4 of their existing shoe styles, which they then machine washed or dip dyed. And of course the dye attaches differently to various materials and to different parts of the shoe. This is also how the shoes were presented, just on top of each other on a shelf as if they were washed ashore. Yet we will also find finishing done in many other ways. For instance, dip dyeing the upper before the sole is attached, or using tie-dye leather as was done on the boot. It might prove a challenge for some companies, especially if you work in Asia, to achieve this type of look. So I would suggest if you start with this, just use it on an existing style and spend the time that you are not using to design to actually explain to the factory how to make this type of finishing. When it comes to materials, we see this same need for high quality veg tan leathers that we saw in the previous themes, only this time with a much more rugged twist. And that rugged twist is also often achieved using finishing. For instance, these boots by Grotesque were treated with white paint, making them look dusty. To me, these look like these have been in this room, as if you wore them on a construction site. Yet we will also find this veg tan leather for the shoes that I referred to earlier, all the styles that are inspired by primitive, archetypical shoes, like these moccasins by Clarks. When it comes to styles, it's essential to create a rugged look. Whether you make sandals or boots or anything else, this applies to both winter and summer. For instance, the sandal in the front, you see an upper with minimal stitching, or if you look at the boot, you find stitching replaced with nails. If you do use nails, by the way, don't go for shiny, gold, tacky looking hardware. This is about creating a look that is heavy duty and rugged, not about creating a tacky, blingy look. Like I said when I talked about the clothing, we see a big influence of workwear. And again, this is both for summer and winter. So we find a lot of styles inspired by classic worker boots, or as we saw in the previous theme, we find fusions of several archetypes mixed together, such as the boot in the middle by Hard Work by Rehab, which is basically a fusion of a clog and a worker boot. The same ruggedness applies to men's shoes, as you can see here, whether you make a boat shoe or a boot. The shoe in the middle, by the way, by Levi's, shows a new cross-seasonal worker style with low-cut worker boots. Specifically for summer, we will also find the remakes of primitive sandals that I spoke of before. Now, people have asked me, Nicolene, I thought this whole gladiator Roman sandal style was out already this season, because we've seen it a couple of seasons ago. Yet this type of sandal it comes from a different angle. It's inspired by something else. What we saw before, you know, the knee-high gladiator sandals in metallics, those were more inspired by a Roman warrior look, so to speak, like Cleopatra on speed. Yet this comes from a different direction, where we are looking back to the first shoe styles and just minimizing construction and basically going back to nature. However, we will definitely see a new fashion touch, and those are the Roman sandals mixed with boots, so to speak, or the slouch sandals, if you might call them. This was a major trend already at Bread and Butter. Everybody from Southern Europe was wearing this, and we have seen it a lot at GDS as well. It's a major trend for next summer. For outsoles, we will again see this fusion of craft and nature. For instance, mixing leather with crepe rubber, adding handcrafted looking stitching, as you see in the shoe on the front by Fry. Of course, this is expensive to do, so if you are not in a high price range, you should go for something more like the one in the back, just adding a leather patch to a crepe outsole. For heels, there's one big trend, and those are the stacked leather heels. Either actual stacked leather or stacked leather look. As you can see here, they can come in all varieties, from more high fashion experimental styles like the one on the left to more basic casual styles like the one on the right. What you also see in the one on the right is finishing on the heel. The stain on the heel kind of resembles the stain on the wall. So again, referring to what we said in the beginning, start with the finish and also look for new finishing for your heels to give them an extra worn, weathered look.